Ding ding, time's up. Which U.S. president once told tale about an unidentified wild beast that may have possibly attacked and killed a pioneer? Well, have you guessed? The answer was none other than the iron-fisted President Theodore Teddy Roosevelt back in his 1893 book, The Wilderness Hunter. Welcome, my friends, to the Lair of Darkness. I am your host, the Dark Lord. And when I am trying to stay out of federal prison, I'm here in my unknown lair discussing topics of awesomeness and apparently making them more fascinating, I guess. Today I am delving further into the topic of Bigfoot. How about we start by talking more about the Teddy Roosevelt story? A long time ago, in the historic state of Montana, there was a young mountain man named Bowman traveling with his unnamed companion through the mountains of western Montana. The two travelers had not come across any trouble from any animals during their previous camping nights in the wild, until one night when they found their campsite in ruins. It appeared that they were being stalked by an unidentified wild beast that was apparently walking on two legs. Whatever the creature was, it was giving off a foul odor, and it was very large. But finally, after a couple of days of hearing strange noises in the dark forest, the two men decided that they were going to leave as soon as daylight hit. Unfortunately, when Bowman returned to camp, he was left in a state of shock, as his companion, who had agreed to look after the camp while Bowman was gathering supplies, had been murdered and half-eaten alive by something monstrous. Neither Roosevelt nor Bowman had claimed the creature was Sasquatch, but there is no denying that this story was by far the strangest one he had heard yet. Now, whether the Bowman story was true or not, it was still very interesting. Bowman's full identity itself remains as elusive as Bigfoot's. Another thing you might be wondering is whether or not there is any plausible proof of Bigfoot's existence besides eyewitnesses. The Native American folklore surrounding Bigfoot appeared to be the only prominent evidence of Sasquatch's existence for centuries, until the year of 1967, or should I say more precisely, October 20th, 1967, when two men named Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin filmed a less than 2-minute video footage of a human-like hairy creature walking across Bluff Creek, California. The 1967 Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot footage remains by far the most prominent evidence of all time regarding Bigfoot's existence. Surely there are many closed-minded people still saying that the creature in the footage is a man dressed in an ape suit. But you must understand that not many men would dress up as a female Sasquatch, seeing as this Bigfoot reveals to have penniless breasts attached to it. And you must also notice that the way the legs are moving, and how quickly the Bigfoot turns its head back after the famous turnaround scene. Just as recently as last year, a group of researchers examining the footage broke it down frame by frame to be absolutely positive that the film itself and the Bigfoot itself are actually real. Many people easily come out and say that it is a man in an ape suit, until we do have a man dressed up in an ape suit and set it up against the so-called patty, which is what they called it. However, when that is attempted, it is easily debunked that Patty is definitely not a man trying to fake Bigfoot. One, if not the biggest difference between a human walking and the Bigfoot in the film is the way the creature walks upright. The human foot contains a longitudinal arch from the foot to the back of the human skull, which helps a human have a more sturdy step, whereas the Bigfoot in this film seems to apparently lack. We observe this Bigfoot having a more open swing when it steps due to its massive foot sizes, easily bigger than humans. Another big difference that I have observed is how fast the Bigfoot jerks or turns its head back forward after it turns to the camera. If this really was a man in a suit, he would have had a much more difficult time getting the muscles in the neck to comply with his head, which turns too quickly to be a suit. Another thing that people fail to realize is that at the same time the Bigfoot footage was filmed, many states northeast of Bluff Creek, California, in the small, quiet town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, townspeople and good, honest, church-going people were being terrorized by the entity known only as the Mothman. But guess what? I will save that for another discussion. I'm now going to come and ask this question. Will there ever be a Bigfoot caught on film that will be as convincing as the Patterson footage? Well, guess what? I may have gotten my wish as recently as September of 2021, seeing as I, the Dark Lord, am a subscriber to Coast AM with George Norrie. In one of the most recent articles, or as recently as September 2021, or August of 2021, late August of 2021, had somebody anonymously upload a super short clip from Idaho that allegedly shows what looks like about a male Bigfoot walking through some brush from what seems like 10 to 20 feet in front of the cameraman. Now, due to the fact that the Patterson footage was filmed in 1967, many people find it harder to discredit it because of the fact that the technology that we have now, we did not have back in those days, so it would be much more difficult to hoax that footage. However, with technology and Photoshop on the rise in recent years, people find it much easier to discredit people who claim to have captured Bigfoot or Sasquatch on tape. Now let's take a closer look at this video. Most people would say that this footage is far too good to be true. Well, the same thing was said back in 1967 when the Patterson footage was shot. Now let me say this. Look at the muscles in the chest area of this creature. Obviously, if this is real, it would depict a male Bigfoot, seeing he doesn't look like he has visible breasts, like this one did. And his back physique is far more muscular, too. And you can also see the way that he walks is greatly comparable to the way that what Bigfoot walked in the Patty footage, although there might be slight differences between the way the female walked and the way the male walked. If this is not an elaborate hoax, this footage would be far just as interesting as the 1967 Patty video, or if not, more prominent than the Patty footage. Either way, they would both be phenomenally plausible evidence of Bigfoot's existence to date. Another question people ask is, where does Bigfoot live? If he's alive, where is he stationed at? Where's his house at? Where's his den at? In June of 2010, the residents of Tonto National Forest on the Mogollon Rim in Arizona discovered a massive, abandoned, heavily wooded den, which they believe may have been the home of the Mogollon Monster, which apparently is their own Bigfoot creature, spotted by many eyewitnesses in every corner of Arizona, but mostly on the Mogollon Rim. Keep in mind that the brush amongst the forests of the West Coast are so thick that Bigfoot could definitely live in there, and never be found unless you wanted to be. Now, where did Bigfoot get his famous name from? Well, I have explained that. Bigfoot got his famous name when the construction men operating in California in the late 1950s, when they discovered enormous tracks around their equipment that had been tampered with, and began calling the mysterious culprit Bigfoot by 1958. These footprints have been found across the country by people who have claimed to have sighted the elusive creature hanging around the same area. However, many dismissed these tracks and claimed that they had been made by a bear or some other animal, But when they took molds of the supposed Bigfoot tracks, there were significant differences between these tracks and actual bear tracks. Bears do have a tendency to stand up and sit down in a seemingly human-like fashion. However, their big ears and long snouts separate the possibility of being mistaken for a Sasquatch. Keep in mind that the Bigfoot in the Patterson footage did not have visible ears or a long snout, and also had much bigger feet than any bear did. Bigfoot also gets caught occasionally on a hunter's secret movement cam like this one did. Many people claim that it is just a black bear suffering from a hair loss disease, but you got to wonder why it seems to be picking something up with its hand. And I don't know about you, but it would be awfully difficult for a black bear with that kind of skin condition to pull it off so easily. Bigfoot is often hoaxed by people seeking to make fun of the people who firmly believe in its existence. But they also attempt to hoax Bigfoot to gain fame and publicity, and yes, I know that. However, when somebody incredibly stupid attempts it, they can never seem to pull it off successfully like this guy did in August of 2012. This man put on a military ghillie suit, which is actually quite often mistaken for people trying to hoax Bigfoot. I'm not going to lie, and during his hoax attempt, ended up getting hit once by one car on the road and was eventually hit by another car, ending his life permanently. Apparently Bigfoot can cross the road anytime, but he himself or herself is not stupid enough to get hit by a car. Dumbass. There was also another incident in which men came across an ape suit and mistaken it for being the dead corpse of a Sasquatch, which I have to admit when I saw it I thought it was Bigfoot too. However, it was quickly debunked as just an ordinary ape suit, which was kind of disappointment. Which was kind of a disappointment for me because I was hoping we would finally have proven Bigfoot's existence. Folks who think that every Bigfoot sighting in the world is just a man in an ape suit do not realize how difficult it would be to impersonate Sasquatch, since it has never been studied or analyzed, we have no idea how Bigfoot thinks, acts, or even feels. And it would be especially difficult to mimic the screams and sounds that Bigfoot makes. Also, think about this. If you saw Bigfoot in the state of West Virginia, and a friend of yours saw Bigfoot in the state of Washington the next day, it is highly unlikely that you two saw the same Bigfoot. Keep that in mind. Now let me ask you this. Have they ever caught record of what people might say is the dead corpse of a possible Bigfoot? Possibly in the ice? The answer will be revealed in part 3 of this discussion, which of course will be continued. Hayanasa, or ciao.